Hello, I hope all is progressing well. My name is Kevin Dufresne, and welcome to I Don't Know. We can talk about it, where we discuss myriad topics and have civil, reasonable opinions. So, as we mindfully approach these next couple of topics, I want to remind you that I Don't Know We Can Talk About It works in tandem with Pieters.com, a forum of Pieters, where you may leave a topic to discuss, and I will think to review it on my own time or in an episode. So the first couple of topics concern education. Of course, I'm big on talking about education because it's a huge funnel of our society that really connects, aspects of socio-economic status, which I think are important to adhere to. We'll get into these conversations more often than not. An article that we'll discuss first concerns anxiety in the classroom. Of course, considering aspects of anxiety that may come from outside of a classroom, that may be receiving aid, assistance, attention prior to even the classroom. The article, the author, mentions a few ideas that can work, methods that one may implement to ease one's anxiousness in the classroom. Of course, everyone's coming from a different background, which I like to always iterate upon when discussing social atmospheres. So when anxiety starts to be a point of discussion, I think the article does bring up a good point concerning how some might receive a misdiagnosing and receive aid when others might really need that particular type of aid. A concern of mine is around diagnosing, period, before a particular age. I think teaching an individual to be as one is, to mature in one's own being, through one's own being, is very important before diagnosing. There are certain situations that need diagnosing. For example, I remember an individual having asthma as a child, receiving the diagnosing, then no longer having asthma into adult years, pre-adult years, late teen years. Though the discovery is somewhat of self, and lifestyle habits contribute to the individual's well-being, and the diagnosing changes. I think lifestyle treatment is very important. Culturing, self-culturing, if not happening prior to academia, prior to school, prior to any social environment beyond the home, an individual may be feeling certain effects of the differences, of the shifts of being in one space in tandem with another. Another example concerns moving from one space to another, jet lag. When an individual basically packs up, then moves to another space, then has to depack. Very similar for self. The packing up takes energy. A person may feel how a person may feel through the process. Then when time to unpack, the person has to unpack, take time to unpack before being able to fully thrive. Largely depending on the individual though, the unpacking still has to happen before the complete usage of an area is possible. So the complete usage of self may be possible, though, can we consider the complete usage of self possible, if not able to be applicable to the complete usage of space, as is after unpacking? So, with the understanding that the organization of self is important in transitional phases, I like to consider that an important aspect for individuals to consider when discerning diagnosis, discerning diagnosing, and discerning treatment. Because maybe an individual needs another approach to life than medication, holistic versus medicinal, non-holistic wise. With that understanding of anxiety, we can actually more so an understanding of an approach that I think is valuable, aside from the other ones that may be beneficial, just concerning well-being of an individual, especially shifting between spaces, which can take a very heavy toll, especially considering how one's lifestyle habits are. The next topic, an article covers math and how math integrates in a family structure, funneling into society at large when parents and a child or so are really getting into the math. The article touches on how a parent might find frustration in math because of how math is so right and wrong. And there is a comparison between reading and math, how reading can become a subjective, open process, whereas math is very, at least seemingly, rigid because of the right or wrong aspect. I think the article brings up a particular angle of mathematics, which I want to discuss. Because, of course, as an individual that appreciates education and learning, I also appreciate the educators and teachers. So, with that, I say math, in my experience, has always come to processes. So, grading every step more so than grading for a correct answer. With this understanding, I think the alignment of math stands differently with me, because I don't stand to only work for a right or wrong answer. I am looking to ensure the steps are appropriate, the steps make sense, the processes are sensible in my mind, reasonable when it comes to advocating for a resolve. The responsibility of understanding math in that regard, I can really attribute to teachers from my experience, sharing that grading happens not only on a curve, happens on a process, a step-by-step engagement. So all those extra help sessions I go through really help me navigate the important part of math, the steps. Why do I get an answer wrong or right is likely due to a portion of the steps that needs attention. Because math can become very complex, and I'm sure there are mathematicians that can discuss how to resolve math in myriad forms, because, well, there are a lot of different ways to do certain types of math. So with that aspect of processes, I think that flows within the baseline of mathematical works. With that, the article does mention the aspect of persistence in working with math, which I agree with, but I think it's easier to do when it comes to steps. Now, if a parent or guardian or helper doesn't know even those steps or processes, then of course the touching base with the available tools and methods a school may provide can be very useful. I think that baseline mathematics is very key, especially for individuals that are going to be going to other levels of mathematics, other types of math, even the math that connects to the sciences, to not only integrate learnings, though to find a simple way to navigate processes beyond right and wrong. I think the value of knowing the steps stands with me longer than actually trying to understand the frustration of getting a right or wrong answer, because I'm like, oh wow, this is how you do it. Now the other aspect comes in having the details correct and ensuring the steps are in the proper order. So with the understanding that teachers are in a space catering to math well, with lessons and methods that work for each individual. Of course, that's the point of a baseline, because each individual may come to a teacher for a different request of assistance. Even beyond the baseline, though, the baseline may be a great way to navigate mathematical situations in a way that can translate to the home, where it's like, oh, I don't have to put so much energy into all these mathematical approaches, not because these aspects may take time. Yeah, math may be fun, though how many families, a question that comes to mind when I'm reading the article, will really feel a need to spend so much time if a child is only going for 1 or 2 or 3 courses of math. The experience might be fun, though. I wonder if any of the approaches take anything away from anything else a student might be doing. Because in lower grades before college, if the subject is not the specialty for an individual's interest, I say the specialty, like a major in a sense, or even a minor, if it's not really like that, it's just a method to say, hey, I'm gonna get an A, and it really holds no weight on their next step in life, they'll get an A regardless. It's just a very, very frustrating and tedious and time consuming and likely taking away from any other subject. If that is the case, then I feel like a baseline is very, very valuable when it comes to just navigating math, to say, hey, here's the sheet with the baseline methods, the example. Life doesn't have to be a headache, work with this. And of course, we work by steps, work by processes. You get the right or wrong answer because it's going to depend on the equations. Some that come with words, some that are just strictly numbers and symbols. The equations may be difficult to navigate. That's another language. Though if someone can navigate the processes, that can be very, very helpful. Especially if one takes longer to learn language than one does to learn processes. That's that on the mathematical aspect for parents out there and assistants that are trying to navigate the realm of schooling. Of course, tutoring is very, very valuable, and that's because people make time to tutor in myriad ways. And like I said, tutoring can be unique because a person can have in-home tutoring, at-school tutoring, virtual tutoring, a lot of flexible options that might be able to work more with one's schedule, especially if one's dealing with having kids and having to move from one place to another, than a method that a school or teacher is already offering, like a math-a-thon or a math event at the school on a Sunday, Saturday after school, etc. Flexible options are available. Woo! Well, you know what time it is now. We're gonna take a breather, an origami exercise. So the first thing is, I'm starting off with rectangle paper. Can you believe it? Rectangle paper is very valuable because you can do a lot of origami with it. Right, to get into the square of things, well, we just take the rectangle, we bring it down one corner to the edge. That's all it is. We'll take one edge, the top edge, to the side edge, and I'm just gonna fold it. As you can see, there are riffles here. I have some riffles on my edges. So what I'll do is I'll fold the paper at the riffles, so it's like perfect line, as you can see. Perfect line. And after this, I'm just gonna take this bottom sheet here, I'm just gonna rip it. That's all. Just gonna rip it. Okay? Now, after this portion, I have this here. So what we're gonna make today is an origami samurai hat, which I actually really like. I mean, I like a lot of the origami pieces. I like origami, and with the samurai hat, it's fun because, well, you can wear it. So what happens is, you come here, take this, I folded it from point to point, corner to corner, and now I'm going to just take that corner to corner, fold it down, and we need a diamond. How are we gonna get this diamond? Well, of course, I'll let you know, we're gonna fold the flaps down. So we're gonna take this triangle, I'm just gonna take this flap down and fold it right here. Perfect. All right. So now, you see, this is looking more like a parallelogram going into the diamond. So folding both points down along the edge down the center. Perfect. And now, as you can see, we have a diamond. And it's really important just to kind of make sure the flaps are secure. So the next step is to come up. We're gonna come right up here, just fold up. So we're gonna fold up here. So as you can see, I'm folding it up and folding it again. All right. So now I've just folded this up. Okay. So I'm gonna take a quick little measure here so you can understand that what we do next is we're gonna fold into this hat. So when I say fold into this hat, I'm gonna take it, and of course I'm gonna make sure to put the link to the source where I'm getting this from. Actually, the first time I made this was with a book, an origami book. So I'm glad to be back on this website that helps me use the origami paper how I like. So as you can see, we're going from folding on both of these, now just making another fold, nice little isosceles triangle fold here to the side. Okay, so now that we have both of these here, we can literally start moving to the next step, which is gonna be creating the bottom flap. So we have two flaps, don't forget, and fold it up here, see that right here? This is my frill flap. And this looks really cool because you can design it in a lot of different ways with your own paper. So you come here, you see this? We're gonna fold the flap up. Not all the way, we're just gonna leave a little bit. We're gonna fold it up. Bam. Then we're going to fold it down. And remember, this is gonna just fold down to the edge, and you want the edges to be crisp. So I'm gonna fold it right beneath the edge here. See? This portion here comes down here. Then we're gonna fold this up, so we have a nice little edge. Remember, we fold up about 3/4 of the way, fold down so that edge meets the center. Then we're just gonna fold all the way up the rest of it. So the whole bottom edge we're gonna fold up. See? Oh, we're gonna fold that up. So you can see it. So See that whole bottom edge? See? Fold it down, fold that whole bottom edge up. Alright. So now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just fold this back portion back. So you just fold it back. And the other thing is we're gonna tuck it. So you start here, you can fold it back, then we're just gonna do that just to get a nice little tuck in under here, okay? I'm just gonna tuck it in, that's all. I just tucked it in, and voila. We have this awesome origami hat. So this is normally where I end it, right here. And then I could just go like this. Yeah, I have an origami hat. The other aspect is to open this up, okay? Here's a nice little trick. You can open this up, and you can fold it. So like when I say open it up, basically we have the origami hat, samurai hat here. We're kind of folding it into the sideways diamond, crushing it in. So what I'm doing is crushing in a side here, okay? Taking this portion, crushing in a side here, okay? And after the crushing of the side here, boom, I can just reopen the hat up, and then I have the fold on both sides. And again, ta-da! So this is the origami samurai hat. I like the origami samurai hat because it's so festive, it's fun, very noticeable. It's not like the frog or the fox puppet, which can be playful. The fox puppet is playful because you can use it with your hands and talk with someone else. The frog is playful because you can play with other people too. It's just kind of just outward, a little different energy. And the hat is just very festive to me. So I like this origami samurai hat. You can share it, make it for people. It's cute. So the next aspect of, I don't know, we can talk about it, concerns films. Yes, I enjoy films, and I actually ended up watching 3 films within the past 2 weeks about, so each one, here we go. The first one I'm gonna talk about is Evil Dead Rise. I'm not a fan of horror films. Not the first type of film I'm gonna go see. Though I have to say that the film is very gory. If the makeup artists are trying to be appealing, go figure, you have it all the way with being super gory, super creepy. The faces are memorable. The dreams that night are not pleasant all the way through. Some parts of the dream are actually pleasant. The film is really about, you know, spirits and finding the Book of the Dead, and I am not in favor of any of the imagery. It's very demonic, very evil. The characters do an actual decent job of fulfilling the film. I think they fulfill the film well. I think there are some memorable lines. I think the film tries to fulfill some very, how I like to call, cultish lines, so that it's cultishly memorable, which makes the film stand out in a way that makes me say, ugh, Evil Dead Rises, I'm gonna remember this gruesome film. Very similar elements to zombie films, though I find a lot of connotations to Resident Evil because of the way the transformations happen, how the systems of fighting are. You have a unique system where it's not just gun-toting, zombies' heads blowing off. The methods of interaction between the spiritual realm and the physical, the real realm, the realm beyond the spiritual realm, is unique in the sense of classic Resident Evil. And I want to say that the mysterious ways of navigating are somewhat Tomb Raider-ish. So there's like a puzzle. I can see this as a video game. I also can see it as an extending storyline, which the film proves to be by the way it starts off, by starting off a day ahead of when the actual events that we'll primarily be watching as the audience occur. So I think the film is full of action. It's gory. It's very, very different. If you're really into the gore and blood, I think, well, there you have it. Very appealing to individuals with an appreciation for those sensibilities in film. And I think the story is an interesting story. I think the characters and the settings and the makeup really bring the story alive. And the story itself is just gruesome. So it all works together well. Ugh. I'm not the big horror demonic person, but when a film is what a film is, I'm gonna talk about it. The next film is a film about George Foreman. Yes, you can see the title in the picture. The film about George Foreman is actually good. I don't know any of George Foreman's history, though for him to go through those experiences is very, very interesting, because the boxing world is so big. There are a lot of big names that come into the film, and to find that George Foreman's resiliency proves well and valuable even as he ages is wonderful to see the life balance come into play, right? We're talking sports life balance, just like we talk work life balance, just like we talk school life balance, especially as an athlete. I think, when an athlete is a student, there's like this scholarly athletic life balance, and life is very important to how one is going to approach different aspects of one's life. So the mainstay of life, the main line of life, these are portions that I think deserve a lot of attention, and the George Foreman film is exactly about that, about bringing the right attention to aspects of one's life that need attention, and the proper attention, so as to succeed well. Rightfully so. George Foreman's story is a story of maturity. It's a wonderful story on the basis of a true life, true lives, and I like the story. I think the film is very touching. I think the acting partners fulfill the film very well. I think the film is definitely worth viewing in theaters, and I think that there are a lot of messages to take away from the film. Being a good person is very valuable, and to find such life being so valuable to others in that life's own right is wonderful. So it's such a really feel-good film, and the ending is awesome. It's just beautiful. So the third film I watch is, drum roll please, I'm gonna check on it real quick. I'll be right back, because there are 3 films I watch, and those are the 2 that I remember watching right off the top of my head. So let me go there. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Is a cute film. I like the film. I like coming of age stories, especially when the coming of age is like of the youthful coming of age. I'm getting super Moonrise Kingdom vibes from the film, except dealing predominantly with the developing female, developing woman. And I think the acting partners fulfill the film well. I think we delve into a super religious backdrop. So all these problems come from the divisions from religious beliefs in the families. We have members disagreeing with each other about the Jewish faith, the Catholic faith, and Margaret is navigating life with this burden of trying to understand religions in between individuals that are super adamant one way and not the other about religions. And the connection between families is huge, because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to completely acknowledge my significant other if she doesn't go to lengths to do the self-work and show me that self-work. I mean, the husband is well aware, they're both well aware of the situation about religion in the family and her disconnect with her parents, though having a child come in the mix and having one extending family, the parent, the grandparent, the grandmother, being so present. Of course, I'm gonna actually think to myself, we need to discuss what's gonna happen when our child matures, has questions about the other side, because there's a balance, and children are smart, I think. So the curiosity is going to come to the table. I feel like the work that Margaret brings her mother to do is the self-work that needs to happen way before Margaret, realistically. And I think the approach to it all is not to say that the family needs to always be together, though, to say that this is your family, so you don't have any questions, here's what's going on with the family, before the contention, before the conflicts need to arise. Of course, that's a driver of the story. Yes, the religious conflict, the religious divisions, the religious contentions. Yes, I understand. That drives the story as much as the maturing of a young woman, of a woman, period, into adulthood, and recognizing the beautiful aspects of becoming a woman, of being a woman. The party's still going on. Just because the hat falls doesn't mean the party's over, but we'll put the hat on for festive purposes. So the ideas of the beautiful developments of a woman are at the table. How does one approach being a woman? Looking at a woman as a young girl, how does one understand that? The film is comical. Yes, it's a dramedy, with a lot more comedy than drama, though I find a lot of value in the sentiments of just being a human without religion. Then, of course, the religious aspect is cool too. And, you know, the social aspects of growing are important as well. Social circles. The film is on the basis of a Judy Blume book, yes, by the same name. I like the film, it's very cute. Of all the films, not one of them do I think is better off on a smaller screen. I think all of them are perfect on big screens. And like I say, I really like coming of age stories. So I do find the religious aspect to be very unique, perhaps in this day and age, for the age group especially. The discussion on the table, it's real. Because I remember being a camp counselor and coming to that conversation, I'm like, that's a real conversation. So to be able to understand that in person, in real life, than to see it in a film, I'm like, this is actually a serious topic for individuals. And go figure, choosing a religion, that's coming from me, the more spiritual, though in alignment with the creator of the universe, God, the spiritual aspect away from the religious aspect is very strong, and I'm able to see, because of experience and learning intentionally of different religions and spiritual practices, what one might be going through. I'm like, wow. Then there's the romance. I'm so glad grandma gets a boo-boo as she gets older. She goes to Florida to find her boo-boo. Go figure. She moves to a place where there are people around her age, and she finds someone around her age romantically. It's really sweet. I see what the film does. Good positing, but it's true though. It's very sensible that she makes those moves. All right. With that, we're going to come to a book, A Dance with Dragons. Yeah, we don't have to do the drum roll too long. It's because, of course, I enjoy talking about books. I enjoy reading books. Books are amazing and have lifelong lasting benefits. So reading books, very valuable. What happens In A Dance with Dragons, oh, we're really coming to a connecting point, because remember, in A Feast for Crows, we're only getting half of the characters, so we're getting that half of the character development, with the full development of the characters, though half of the characters. Now we're getting all of the characters in A Dance with Dragons again, after the full development of the other half of the characters. So, what do I find valuable about the text? I mean, of course, it's a fiction. There are a lot of valuable points in the text. I'm actually learning some other pieces of history, which makes A Dance with Dragons actually stand out a lot more, especially concerning coin, debts, one's words, particularly just debt in general. And I think George R.R. Martin's character development is always valuable. It's beautiful. I'm not yawning because the party hat's off, and I'm not yawning because of the topic. I'm just yawning because I think that's a natural thing that humans do for whatever reason. There's a science behind it, probably. I don't know. We can talk about it. I'm going to do a little bit of research on that. Maybe I'll come with an answer next time on the next episode of I Don't Know. We can talk about it. I like Tyrion meeting another individual that can somewhat match him, because we definitely get a different cultural approach of Tyrion's travels. I think he brings everyone into very diverse realms, moving from basically jester to king to hopeful to child to potential guardian to a citizen with concerns, because he travels through so many dynamics of society, whereas a lot of characters are just really in stiff roles. We have Snow in his maturing role. That's pretty much it. He's just a ruler, though. We have him to the extent of a soldier, to the extent of this espionage, masterful tactician, as a leader, strategist. We have, of course, him being in that role of abiding with the king, and also setting his foot down, like I say, intelligently, intentionally, to create particular safeguards. We have, oh my goodness, corruption uncovering because of that behavior. So we do see the balancing of different roles, though some are stiffer than others. Daenerys, another one. She's free. she's really free. Her role isn't as stiff, though it is really stiff because of how she's navigating as ruler, as queen, in these different mental states. She's navigating so much mentally as queen, as ruler, more so than actually, because of the guards in place for her to be this queen of everyone, respectfully, mindfully, though everything about her seems not in her control. And so watching her go into this span of freedom, of self-discovery, is beautiful. Though leaves one to question much, especially when concerning power. And the dragons obviously prove to be very powerful in a warlike sense, not powerful in an energizing sense like hydro energy or electric energy. I'm talking more like war, that kind of military force that she has, while developing her resiliency because of the experience she's come through. So she still has so much more to live for. I'm very curious as to how she's going to develop, what the turnout will be. It's really the most recent book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, A Dance with Dragons. I find the text to be very entertaining. I like the way the story progresses. I mean, Cersei's a very, very interesting character. She's going to a flexible stage too, but we're seeing Cersei from that perspective of ruler as well, queen, ruler, to being on the ground with the people, to being, well, somewhat likely less than the people even. And we get the mental approach of Cersei within that walk. Though largely beforehand, though within the walk of shame, if you will, which stands to prove differently for a lot of characters in connection with her, because she seems to still have some connection, some loyalties, which are a mystery in terms of what will result. Because we already know that she cannot, from the text, with the information we have, rise to that same point from which she has come after that walk. So what will develop? I think the character development is so fun. If one is already investing in Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire series, these kind of contexts mean more than if one is not investing. And I think that George R.R. Martin's world building is very valuable, because we're getting a sense, the audience, of the type of world that everyone is progressing through and what the world might be like. Of course, there are 2 other texts that work with the series. I've yet to read them. I'm not gonna say I'm going to read them, because I'm reading other texts that I find very, very valuable, and because I think my investment in the Game of Thrones series is cool. The main line is cool, and I'm all right with that. Thank you for joining me for I Don't Know, We Can Talk About It. My name is Kevin Jeffren. Of course, stay in touch via peachers.com. Please feel free to comment, like, subscribe. I definitely like feedback on any of the topics. If anyone has an opinion to talk more, we can, or anything to suggest, or a question, please vote using the abilities and tools that you have. Onward and upward, Kevin Jeffren.